Welcome to Success Talks with Rodney Saulsberry. I hope you will support my sponsors who bring you this podcast absolutely free and with limited interruptions. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. I'll get started in just a second.
The reviews are in. The latest book from voiceover superstar and coach Rodney Saulsberry is another runaway hit. Readers from all over the world are raving about his newest title, Tongue Twisters and Vocal Warm-Ups. You can find this and his other titles at the top of the voiceover bestsellers list on Amazon.com.
Hello, everybody. I'm joined today by Rick Holliday. Rick works in human resources, and I told you long ago when I first started this thing that I was going to be bringing you people from all walks of life. And this is certainly something different and something that I think will apply to many of you out there who have businesses and you have been trying to pay people on your own. Well, you need professionals like Rick to do it the right way, to set up your payroll. And so I'm so happy today to have him to tell us exactly what human resources are all about. How you doing, Rick?
Very well, thank you, Rodney. Yes, human capital management, as it's called today, is taking the place of what typically used to call human resources or HR, and having a good understanding of it is critical because it just really underlies everything you do inside of your business.
Why would somebody come to you if I started a business and I was just like writing checks for, let's say, 5 employees? Why is it better for me to use you?
Well, the reality comes down to 2 things. It's the state and the federal government, and both of those rely on taxes. And it's the taxes that come from individual business owners, sole proprietors, partnerships that really helps drive the economy. And more times than not, people don't understand that not paying your taxes is a greater liability than actually paying your taxes. Now, I know that kind of sounds like, oh yeah, well, I get that. But the reality of it is to pay your taxes properly, to do it timely, and to do it on a regular schedule is the simplest, easiest method for avoiding any issues in the future.
I like that. Also, I think by using you, they avoid red flags.
And those flags are simple things, like just paying out too much money, having a cash-based business, so people know money's coming in, but when they don't see it going out, where's it going? Trying to pay people under the table, or not really understanding what a 1099 relationship is, and that's really the most critical one, where you may actually pay someone and thought you have satisfied all the requirements by paying them their portion of their money that is due at 1099 rates, but you still have the liability because you had them not so much in a 1099 space, but through the human capital management understanding, you actually had them in a W-2 space. And W-2 just means a fancy way of saying an employee space. And when someone's an employee, in California in particular, there are so many laws, so many rules, so many regulations that you have to comply with that people just don't understand because they're just not made aware of it.
Now, to my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the 1099 gives all of the cash to the employee, and then it's up to the employee to pay these other side taxes. So it seems to me that it would be better for me to get a W-2 where the company pays Social Security, health and welfare, etc. Which one do you think is best?
Yeah, actually, it just kind of depends. Most people don't think that they're breaking the law when they do a 1099 relationship, because like, I hired Rick, let's say, to work for Rodney Saulsberry, and I just want Rick to do his job, his certain requirements. But then you ask me to do certain things, or you want to almost require me to be in a certain space at a certain hour, a certain time. Anytime you have to mandate that they do certain things, the relationship isn't 1099. A 1099 relationship is like you hiring a plumber. Plumber comes in, he does his job, you pay him for the job, and that's it. But he comes in at his own time, he tells you when he'll show up, he tells you how long he'll be there, he leaves for lunch, he does everything on his own schedule. Once you tell this plumber, okay, look, Joe, you need to be here at 9, you need to stay here to 5, you need to do these things, and buy your supplies from this guy, now it's an employee-employer relationship.
What if you don't give a 1099 out? It becomes under the table at that point, huh?
Yeah, and that's almost even worse, because then the onus on proving that you didn't do it is on you. Because I can go to Rodney and say, hey, give me the money under the table and we're fine. But then what happens later is if I get in trouble, I say, well, Rodney paid me this. And then the government will look to you to prove that you didn't do it. Not that you did it, but that you didn't do it. And if you have no documentation, which you will not, because all you did is give cash, well, then that puts you in a liable situation. So then the taxes, the social securities, all the things that people, avoid paying become due on you. So the problem of really having the proof and being able to disprove what someone says about you is where it comes into play. So human capital management is a sourcing or a way to protect yourself from that. It's a way to put together a payroll that's simple and clean and easy to follow. It's a way to demonstrate to the government, all the entities of the government, local, state, and federal, that you satisfy the tax requirements, you satisfied all the other particular requirements. In Los Angeles, for example, there are so many more requirements. I like to say oftentimes that, if you live in California and have a business or work here, you should get like an executive gold club membership to the rest of the country, because we pay the most tax and we pay out the most tax for most people in the rest of the country. And for those reasons, we shouldn't have to have this extra burden, but we do. And it's because it's a beautiful place, it's a wonderful town, and there's all these business opportunities for us. So being that that's the situation, you have to take the time to make sure you satisfy all those entities properly, because if you do not, you run the risk every single time. And you've probably heard horror stories of someone saying, oh, this guy came back at me and sued me for XYZ through the EDD, and then I went to court and they I lost because you didn't have it fully satisfied. They don't count 9 steps. If there's 10 involved, all 10 steps need to be completed. And if they're not, then it's your fault.
I like that. You mentioned EDD, and that reminds me of unemployment. I would suspect that HR is important too for people who want to claim unemployment benefits.
Now see, that is actually where people miss the boat. That's where it falls short. People don't understand that if I'm Rick Holliday, independent contractor working on my own, and I was working for Rodney 2 years ago, and as working for you, you paid me this money under the table or otherwise. Now I'm unemployed. I think about my circumstance. I say, I'm going to go to the EDD, the Employment Development Department, to ask for workers' compensation or to ask for unemployment insurance, ask for whatever I can get. So when I do that, they ask for your last employment record.
Right.
And then they want to see how much money was paid in from you to satisfy this guy's need. And when you show 0, then they can do 2 things. They can say, well, you don't qualify, or they can say, okay, Rick, hold on, we're going to call Rodney, and we're going to find out where the records are of how much he paid. If you don't have those documents, now the EDD looks at you and says, well, Rodney, he worked for you. Where's your information? And that's where people get in trouble, because everybody says, oh yeah, well, he did work for me, but it was a 1099 relationship. We'll prove that.
Right.
Well, I can't, because he came in. Well, then I'm sorry. You owe us, because we're going to pay him. So now you owe us, the government, this money. And guess what? The government doesn't care, and it's not negotiable. They just take their money.
Tell us how you got started.
That's a great question. It's funny because, life takes you through different pathways and different twists and turns, but the short answer is I was doing something for about 20 years of my life in one career, and then all of a sudden that just went sideways. The industry changed. Actually was in advertising and marketing, and Google came in and kind of put the clamps on that in a real big way. And so with that in mind, I had a headhunter looking for some opportunities and pointed it to the HR management and human capital and that environment, retirement planning and just finances, and not being in that area before, I didn't think it met my need. But the reality is I didn't think I had enough of the acumen or the experience to really do it. And come to find out that actually it's something that I enjoy immensely. I mean, I love it, because it's exciting to me to be in this environment to help people, especially small business owners.
You know what I like about that answer? As a voiceover artist and someone who teaches voiceover, I feel that everyone's background, what they did in other jobs, helps them in voiceover, right? If they happen to be a singer, then they've been in front of microphones. If they're actors, they've interpreted scripts. And so your answer sounds like, even though you were doing something that had nothing to do with HR, it helped you in that area because you used a lot of the things you used. Right?
Absolutely. For me, the real benefit from working in advertising is understanding the fact that a business owner isn't in business to pay for advertising. They're not in business to take 3 weeks out of their year to do all this HR stuff.
Right.
They're in business to do their business.
Right.
If it's voiceover, they're in business to be a voiceover artist.
That's right.
They're in business to be a plumber. They're in business to do whatever it is they want to do that they hung their shingle out initially to do. And in order to do that, they have to have this foundational stuff set. And so for me, understanding that the only reason I was in advertising is because I wanted to help bring more business to you. So regardless of how much you pay me, I'm going to make sure that's 5, 10, 20, 100 times over in return. That's exciting to a business owner. Now I go to that same business owner and I say, regardless how much you pay me for this, I'm going to make sure you're able to do your business without worry or concern about something coming back, because I'm going to have that foundation set for you.
Okay, so I start my business. I am a small business owner. I have hired, let's say, 10 employees, and I feel like I need HR. How do I go about getting an HR company? What are some of the things that are charged? What does that cost?
That's a great question. So the reality is, with Google, obviously, and all the internet access, you can go online and just kind of type in, HR, payroll, and try to find the answer there. But I would tell you, there are a couple of names out there that people are familiar with, the ADPs of the world, the Paychecks of the world. And the experience that I have in those areas, and actually coming from Paychecks as my background, those companies are probably too big for what an individual would really need. That you can actually take full advantage of them. They have small business packages, but they're built for larger companies that have a real need. You need someone probably that's going to be a little closer to you. That experience and actually focus in that area is going to be beneficial for you. And a lot of people say, oh, okay, Rick, well, that's my CPA. And the answer to that is no. Your CPA is a certified public accountant. They're your tax person, your tax guy. You want them to do that. You don't want them to do your payroll. Now, sometimes a CPA will do your payroll as a favor. They'll do it really at a loss for themselves because they just want to take care of your taxes, and it simplifies the process for them that way. But the reality is you need someone that can just handle payroll. And especially in California, I'll say that twice, especially in California, because California is egregious when it comes to errors. If there's a mistake or a problem, is your CPA going to cover you? The answer typically is no. So what you need is someone who's focused and experienced in that area. My company is Heartland Payroll. In Heartland, we are a payroll company primarily. We don't look to do any other types of businesses. We don't look to do any other types of service offerings, although we have the whole complement of things that we can do in an HR environment. Our focus primarily is just payroll because we understand it to be foundational for you to set your business. Then once you have that in place, all the components of HR are added on to that and at a level that you need.
Are you only working for people in California?
No, I'm actually across the country. It's a beautiful thing. Most companies have representation that's going to be territorial or focused and fixed in one area. The beautiful thing about my company is I'm able to go anywhere I need to, whether it be Hawaii, New York, Florida, Atlanta, or just back here, Texas. And look at the situation in Texas. That's a real issue because if you think about Houston having the flood issues and all that, and businesses being open or closed, if someone's expecting a paycheck but they haven't gone to work for a couple of weeks, well, what do you do? Who do you call? How do you handle that? As a business owner, what do you do? What are your thoughts? How do I pay these people? I have some people on salary. Do I still have to pay them? I have people who are hourly. How do I put that together? There's so many questions, and that's where that human capital management comes into play because we're the resource to answer that. You would call me and say, Rick, what do I do? I'm going to give you clear, exciting, and exacting answers.
Great. And we can find you on the internet. We can Google and get you. And what are some of the prices that we have to pay for this service?
So typically you want to look at paying a per employee rate. That's kind of how it breaks down. So if I have 5 employees, I'm going to pay, it's a commodity. So it could be $2, it could be $100. Just based on the value of service that's being brought to you. But on average, with the competitive nature of the business as it is right now, you're probably going to be in the $5 to $10 range right now per employee. Now that's just to run a simple payroll. So if I have 5, it's going to be $25, 5 times that, or $50.
Is that per week?
That's per every run. They call it a run. So if you run, like most people do weekly, you can run weekly, you can run bi-weekly, you can run semi-monthly, you can run monthly, you can run semi-annually or annually. You can do, and for sole proprietors and people that are artists and people in that kind of business, they may want to do just 1 check a year. You have that ability.
Really?
You can just run 1 check, make sure all your taxes and everything is satisfied, sent to the right departments, everything's done, and you have no worries.
Yeah. Well, Rick, I am so happy that you joined us today. Is there anything that you'd like to leave us with, Rick, in terms of HR and its importance?
Yeah, really just the one thing is that most people, unfortunately, put things off, as we all do, just creatures of habit, until it's too late or it's a circumstance where there's just not enough time to get it done the right way, and we end up having to pay a fee for it. And experience being the best teacher. I will tell everyone who's listening that I've seen it too many times, way too many times, that if you even think you have a need, you're probably behind the 8 ball already. You have to take advantage of this stuff early. The thing to investigate is, how do I set my business infrastructure? Set it from the foundation. Do I need a payroll? Can I set up a payroll? Is it in place? So that you don't have to worry about adding on and doing these things once you're up and running, because that just slows down your process of being in business. If you want to be successful, success stories, Rodney Saulsberry. In order to do that, you need to take care of business. And I know you teach that all the time.
I teach it all the time, and what a great closing. I like that successful thing. Thank you so much, Rick.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Appreciate the time.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Rodney Saulsberry, Better Than Before. The uplifting new album featuring a collection of motivational music. Rodney Saulsberry, Better Than Before. Available now at rodneysaulsberry.com.
Hello everyone, this is Sean Daly for dailyvo.com. I want to tell you about one resource I highly recommend for vocal warm-ups because it takes out all of the guesswork and it was purpose-built with voiceover in mind. It's called Rodney Saulsberry's Tongue Twisters and Vocal Warm-Ups with Other Vocal Care Tips. How's that for a title? So in case you don't know, Rodney Saulsberry is a top-tier talent and coach, motivational speaker, and author of several books on voice acting, including You Can Bank on Your Voice and Step Up to the Mic. The book is available in print and on Kindle, and you can find it at Amazon or Rodney's personal website, rodneysaulsberry.com, in the store section.
I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I urge you to listen to future podcasts where I will continue to try and make you better than before. My goal is to point you in a positive direction to success, right here on Success Talks with me, Rodney Saulsberry.